Welcome to this Real Talk episode where we talk with everyday leaders about real leadership issues. And we are honored and delighted to have on this episode today the Dane brothers. How you guys doing? You're coming to us from Idaho, right? Nampa area?
Correct. Boise, Meridian.
Boise area? Okay.
Treasure Valley, Boise, Treasure Valley area.
Well, I'm excited to be talking to you because I've talked a little bit with Taylor. There's a couple of different stories here that we want to weave together. You can find really good leadership stories in everyday situations, all right? So the focus for us today has to do with your family business, wood grain, right? And then the startup or the business that you guys have created, which is called Proof Eyewear, all right, which is really, really cool, okay? So I want to start just by letting you know the good news is that Proof Eyewear now is going to be the official eyewear of the Learning Point Group, okay?
Oh, nice.
So congratulations for that. And we do have a gift. You guys were generous enough to offer a gift, one of your products to one of the listeners on here. And so we'll take care of that later on in the episode, okay?
Perfect.
But what I want to do is, Taylor, because you're the one that I met that I know the most, can you just kind of get us started? Let us know a little bit more about who you guys are, about your family, and then maybe we can, and just briefly, we'll go into more detail about both wood grain and Proof Eyewear as we move on, but give us just a kind of an intro on all that for us, okay?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I'm here with my brothers, Brooks and Tanner. We live here in the Boise area. We grew up in this area, and we grew up in the wood manufacturing business. It's a business that our grandfather started over 65 years ago. And so growing up, it's kind of been part of, our whole lives. Our first jobs were cleaning up the parking lot, and then when we were old enough, they put us in working on some of the machinery, and we've grown up in that business and spent a lot of time in the outdoor, the Idaho outdoors, and have a love for everything mountains and forests. And about 12 years ago,
like
11 years ago, we created a business called Proof Eyewear, and the whole premise was to create sustainable eyewear. And we started with a material that we had a lot of experience with, which was wood. And so started making mainly sunglasses. And that's kind of evolved into a whole line of eyewear, including prescription glasses, and then also evolved also the types of materials that we use. So we'll do recycled skateboard decks, a lot of different species of wood, aluminum, an acetate that's derived from cotton cellulose, so it's completely biodegradable. And the whole premise there is eco-friendly, and we wanted to also give back. We have a give back portion of that business, and then also is something that was an extension of where we came from. So we kind of refer to that as our heritage arm of that business specifically. In addition to that, all three of us still work within our family's business, which is wood grain.
That's awesome, great. And I take it Brooks is the oldest, the one in the middle. From left to right, we have Taylor, Brooks, and Tanner, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. And so you all still work at wood grain then?
Correct.
You have different positions. Taylor, what's your position there at wood grain?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting what I do specifically. It's wood manufacturing, right? So, but what I do is we actually have a lot of byproducts. So anytime a piece of wood goes through a saw, it creates sawdust or shavings, and we actually capture all of that material and put it into pellets or bales and sell that to the equine industry. Or if you go to your local hardware store, they sell pellets for heating stoves. So I handle everything residual from our core business, which is the millwork business. That's what I do.
Excellent. And Brooks, how about you? You're in your office there. What?
Yeah, so I'm over the door group for our division. So in wood grain, we have a couple different divisions. We have a distribution division, sawmill, millwork division, door division, and a window division. And the residuals, which was just tied into it. So really, as a company, my grandpa started. He was running moldings for the manufactured housing industry, and so that's how he kind of got started. He was a truck driver, and he would make moldings in southern Utah and drive them down to California and sell them to the manufactured housing. And And that's kind of how Wood Grain got started. And then as we grew, my grandpa and our dad and uncle really got into vertical integration and started making acquisitions that were that would help us be vertically integrated as a company. And so basically, we talk about tree to trim. We have sawmills that take the trees all the way down to the trim that goes into your houses, and then even the residual, the sawdust, we don't even let that go to waste. Taylor's over that group and sells the sawdust to the farming industry, that went horses and all that. And then our group does the doors, so we manufacture doors here in the U.S. So we're the largest pine door manufacturer in the U.S. And we also import doors from Malaysia and China, and we have a 50-50 joint venture in Chile, and import doors from Chile as well. So that's kind of my world. It's all door related.
That's cool. That's great. I want to talk to you guys a little bit more about your grandfather and your father, the family business, and the leadership, the dynamics of a business within the family. But Tanner, what is it that you do there?
Yeah, no, I have a pretty fun role within Wood Grain in the fact that I get to get involved with all divisions. So I'm the marketing manager. Pretty small team, but doing the marketing for our door group, our millwork group, and Wood Grain as a whole. So yeah, that's kind of a brief.
That's what you do. No small job. Okay, so your grandfather started it. Sound like it was molding for manufactured housing, but it's grown quite a bit, right? Lots of products now come out of Wood Grain. And how many employees work at Wood Grain today?
I think the last was 40,000.
I think we're 5,000 employees now. So through acquisitions, we've grown kind of just through organic growth, but then also acquisitions. So we made acquisitions of other companies that made sense or products. And so today, I think we're the largest distributor of millwork in the Home Depots. And so our distribution group has 7 locations throughout the U.S. and distributes the Home Depot stores. We deal with a lot of pro dealers like Builders First Source or BMC. And our window group, we have some products that go direct to market, some that go through multiple steps in the supply chain. But yeah, it started out as kind of just, my grandpa used to call it a woodpecker mill. It's a small sawmill, and it was actually located kind of at the entrance of Bryce Canyon before that was all protected area.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had a sawmill there, and that sawmill burned down. And I kind of picked himself up bootstraps and said, where else can I get wood? And where else would be a good place? And that took him to South Central Oregon, Lakeview, Oregon. He started a plant there and built the facility by himself, poured the cement, and that was kind of his first real standing structure. And from there, it's kind of grown to, I don't know how many facilities we have now, but
I think we have 24 facilities throughout the U.S. and then 2 in Chile.
Wow.
So that embodies remanufacturing plants to warehouses to sawmills. So those are kind of the dynamic mix that we have.
Yeah. So this isn't a small business anymore. Is it 5,000 employees? That's not a small shop. That's amazing. So tell us just a little bit about your grandfather. If you had to describe his leadership style, did you work with him? You were old enough to work there when he was running the place?
Yeah, so by the time that I started working, I think in high school, these guys maybe have been a little bit younger. He's retired, but he was the type of guy that, when he passed away, they had an article in the newspaper, and it says, "Local tycoon dies." And we kind of laughed because if you knew my grandpa, he was the type of guy that had grease on his shirt, blood stains, and he just loved equipment, loved engineering, loved kind of just mixing it up. So he's a very hands-on leader. He was kind of one of those guys that would say, "Hey, follow me, boys. Let's go take the hill." I don't know if he led by example, or he didn't lead by saying. He led by example more. There's a story about him going out and when he built the Lakeview facility, they had to pour the concrete, and so concrete's got lime in it, and that helps dry the material out, right? So he didn't have boots, hopped in there with his boots and started pouring the concrete around because the guy was doing it wrong, and said, we got to get this thing done, and the concrete's setting, and went home and told my grandma, my feet are cracking because I was in the concrete all day. And so he was just that type of guy, that very entrepreneurial, never graduated high school, but just kind of a doer. And the other family story that we hear a lot was he went back to his hometown and was talking to his principal, and the principal, he never graduated high school, And the principal said, how much money are you making, bud? And he told him this, how much money I'm making. The principal said, well, you're making more money than I do as a principal. And my grandpa always thought it was pretty cool. Here's a guy that never graduated from high school. His high school principal is telling him, hey, you're making more money than me. And so, he was kind of just American success story, right? He just kind of inherited some equipment because someone owed him some money, and he was a truck driver, and he started using those, his know-how and his connections, and started building the business around it. And again, today, it's, this big business. And my dad and uncle tell the story. They went to New Zealand one time, and they were talking about, everything that we've done, and we were importing wood from New Zealand, and, it used to be just a small regional company. And he said, I thought when I handed over the business, you guys would screw it up, and you guys have done pretty good. I think he kind of realized it's gotten to a global scale and grown so much, and that's that entrepreneurial spirit. I think has been passed down. So from a leadership standpoint, I mean, he was a doer. He wasn't a talker. It was words over or action over words, and he was just kind of a get it done type guy, even if he had to get in there and do it himself. So.
That's
Another
awesome.
quick story, growing up, I mean, to Brooks' point, by the time we started working there in high school and middle school, he was retired, and he passed away, I guess, when I was in elementary school. But anyways, I remember being out on the floor working with some folks, and at the end of the day, one person came up that knew our grandfather pretty well, and he said, hey, just so you know, you probably already would have been fired just because you're not very good. You're not very good at what you're doing. I thought that was kind of funny that I mean, my grandfather probably would have fired me for the work that I was putting out at his facility there.
Pretty good story. So now, who heads the wood grain today?
That's our father.
Your father does. Okay. Do the three of you report directly to him?
We both do, and Taylor reports into the millwork VP.
Yeah. So I'm one level, kind of two levels away from just organizational our org chart from him, but yeah, Brooks and Tanner both report directly to him.
Okay, and so Taylor, I'll ask this to you then. The person you report to, is he a family member?
He is, yeah. So
Okay.
It's actually a cousin-in-law.
So there's a few family members in the business. There can't be 5,000 family members, right?
Right. Yeah.
So is there anyone that's a non-family member that's in, a kind of a high-level management position?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lead team. So the VPs of the different divisions. How many non-family members?
3 are family members, 3 are not. And then our HR is not a non-family member, our IT, our transportation, trying to think what else. There's a good chunk of family members running around, but it's also, we realize we're not always the smartest cats in the room, and that we've had to hire people that are smarter than us. And so, we've always said there's a lot of potential. There's not really a ceiling, for people. And one of the, real cool stories is that, our grandpa wasn't an educated guy, didn't spend a lot of time, in school. But we have a lot of managers and guys that run our plants that started from the floor and just kind of worked their way up. And so we really value that expertise and that experience more so, we value education. All of us have opportunity to go get because we've all got our master's degrees, but we also really value experience and just kind of stick to it and getting after things as well. So it's kind of a mix of both things today.
Well, Learning Point Group has worked with some family-owned businesses. I personally grew up in a family business, although I don't work in it. So we know that there can be some challenges, to someone, especially to someone that's not part of the family.
Right.
But there can also be family dynamics within family members too, right? But can you just talk for a minute about what you do to manage the challenges that a non-family member that's in a management type position, like you mentioned 3, I think, of your top leaders are non-family members. Is that a conscious thing that you try to address or manage, or is that not even an issue? How would you describe that?
No, I think it's something that we definitely talk about, and we want to make sure that people don't feel like there's a ceiling, right? So we've always said we're going to hire the best and we're going to promote the best. And so I think people see that, within the organization that you don't have to be a family member to progress. Obviously, we always tell the joke that nepotism's okay as long as you keep it in the family. but all kidding aside, we really try to promote, from within, and we've given a lot of people opportunities again that have been with us a long time, and we try to reward loyalty that way. And so I think previous to some of the family members kind of getting to an age and a maturity where they could take on some roles, I mean, leadership was basically made up of I think my uncle and my dad were really the only family members at the lead team level, and so it wasn't until the last 4 or 5 years where some of us have gotten late 30s, early 40s, and have kind of taken on more of a leadership role and had some experience. All of us have spent multiple roles. Taylor's been in sales, I've been in sales. Tanner was running Proof full time before he jumped over to the marketing side, so he brought all that knowledge from Proof over to Woodgrain, which is really cool because we have kind of an old school mentality and an old school industry where there's a lot of people with gray hair that don't think about Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and some of those things that the new school is. And so I think the family. One of the things that kind of answer your question, I guess, to wrap it up, is that the family has to earn their stripes before they're given something. There's never been something like, hey, you graduated, hey, you're a VP, come on in. It's we all started kind of at the bottom. I did the international side of our business for a while, then did sales, then kind of moved around, did HR, and now I went back to sales, and now over a division, right? And so and that's the case with all the family members. They've all kind of had to earn their stripes before they come in. So I think non-family members that are executives see that and say, okay, these guys get it, and also, there's got to be results there. If something's not working, leadership, will make changes even if you're a family member. So you gotta earn your stripes, and also, bring something to the potluck. You can't just show up empty-handed and expect to eat. So we really, really encourage that, and I think, our non-family member leadership sees that.
Good, I like that. So tell me, just between us, there's just the 4 of us here, okay? Your father is the CEO. Is he good at what he does, or how would you rate him on a scale of 1 to 10? Where'd you put that?
I can speak to that. And that's Brooks alluded to me coming into the business in the last 2 years. Obviously, we grew up in the business. I even had our someone in HR wrote me a message the other day. Hey, is it true you've been in the business 22 years? She's like, that would put you at 13 years old when you started. And I was like, yeah, it's actually probably right. Obviously, I went to school. I left for a while. I've been doing other things, but I guess my first day on the job was 22 years ago. But that's really the reason I decided to take the role and come back and work within the family business, was to take that mentorship from Kelly, our father. So I've been able to see his leadership, and obviously being his son and having that mentorship as a son was big. But hearing the stories and seeing what he's done for the family business was something that I really wanted to mentor under. And I knew, obviously, time's limited. At some point, he's going to retire. I knew that there's no better mentor that I could mentor from, and that I could gain experience with and apply into my future as a young professional. So that was my biggest driver, and saying, hey, I need to get back into some form at Woodgrain to be able to take leadership skills. And honestly, that's my favorite part of the week, when I have time to sit down and wrap out. It's usually an informal meeting. It's usually digging into opportunities and what if this happens, what if scenarios. It's never, sometimes you get into, it's a lot of strategy, which is really fun for me. So he's a larger than life kind of very big picture, and get down to business with a plan of attack, and no bad idea type person. So that's really fun for what I've been able to take from in the last couple of years.
That's great. That's good. So how many siblings are there altogether?
We got 2 more brothers. There's 5 boys all together in our family.
5, no girls, 5 boys.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. That's cool.
It was my mom's birthday last night, and we went around the table and we're saying our favorite stories about my mom. My dad brought up the fact that I'm the youngest, and then when she found out that I was another boy, that she broke down in tears because she was hoping for a girl. So the family jokes that I'm the biggest disappointment in the family. So.
And she hasn't gotten over it yet, apparently.
Yeah.
You're enough to be proud of, though, I think, So if you were to use one word, each of you, we'll go from left to right, one word to describe your father's leadership style, what word would you use?
I'd say one word: servant. It's one of our
Servant?
values. Servant leadership here at Wood Grain is servant leadership is a value for us. So I use the word servant.
You have crafted values that you live to and that you've articulated?
Yeah, we do.
That's awesome. Okay, Brooks, how about for you?
I'd probably say entrepreneurial. He's very big, to Dan's point, big picture, and he gets enough into the details where he can see opportunities. And he's been one of the guys in the company, even before he was in the role, that he's brought a lot of stuff like the acquisitions that we've made to the table. Our distribution group is really a big part. The reason we're in the distribution and selling to Depot, one of their biggest suppliers now on the millwork side, is because he saw an opportunity and heard someone's for sale. Made a recent acquisition of a smaller company recently, just kind of here to the street type guy. So he's very entrepreneurial, very looks for opportunities. So entrepreneurial is probably the one word that I would describe him as.
That's great. Tanner, how about for you?
I would say passionate, honestly. I think he loves what he does. He didn't have to retire if he was healthy and everything's for the future. I don't think he would. Like, he had the opportunity. We've all kind of migrated away from Fruitland, Idaho, which is a really small farm town, about 45 minutes towards Boise, which is a bigger town. And my dad's like, hey, why do I want to move? I'm 5 minutes from work. I get to work. And that's really what he's passionate about. He talks about work all the time. We give him a hard time saying, hey, you got to think about your wife here. I think she's getting neglected, just the fact you're focused on work so much, or like your dinner table talking about what's happening in the business or whatnot. But it's definitely a trait that I can admire, and the fact he's so passionate about it. He breathes, sleeps, everything he does is about this industry and about wood grain specifically.
That's great.
Besides work.
Good deal. So I'm going to ask you the same thing to describe, each other with one word of your leadership style. You're brothers, right? So maybe you're different than most brothers, but most brothers are competitive. Is this true for you guys?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't think we're to the point where we're, beating each other up, and I think we've always had the attitude, maybe it's instilled from our dad, is that and growing up in a family business, it's like, the rising tide raises all boats, right?
Okay.
And so we're competitive from the standpoint, it's like we want to succeed, but I don't think we're competitive from the standpoint that that we're trying to beat each other, get ahead of each other. I think it's like, hey, come along. Like, we like to celebrate each other's wins. And so I think, we're inclusive that way. And I mean, I think, even when we think about starting Proof, I started the company in my garage, and pretty quick it was like, hey, I need some help doing this. And I didn't want to bring my neighbor along. I didn't want to bring my buddy along. I want to bring my brothers along.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a fun journey on the startup side. And so, yeah, I don't know if we're too competitive that way. I think we're competitive from the standpoint of, let's go compete against ourselves and beat what we did last month or last quarter or whatever. But against each other, I think we're kind of like, hey, how do we march in lockstep and keep things moving? So
perfect. And I wanted to get into your collaborative effort together in starting Proof Eyewear. Brooks, it sounds like you started it, but then you invited your brothers to be a part of it, right?
Yep. You
were actually on Shark Tank, right, with your business?
Yeah.
So give us, which is exciting. I mean, most people have not been on Shark Tank. And you started this how long ago? 10 years ago? 11?
11 years ago.
Yeah, coming on 11.
So tell us how it sounded like you started in your garage, but give us the story of how you started it. Where is it today? How's it going? And how do you three work well together? What is it that makes it possible for you to succeed together?
Sure. So I guess I'll tell the story. So I started in my garage about 11 years ago, and I wanted to develop a wood product because, to Taylor's point, we grew up in the wood business. And the first idea I had was a bamboo ski pole, because we were up at our cabin. I thought, if I can modernize the bamboo ski pole, it's eco-friendly, it's kind of just cool and funky, and we like to ski. That's what we do most of the winter, most weekends in the winter. And, as I was trying to develop it basically, to attach the basket and the handle, I just couldn't really come up with a good solution without it breaking. And so I kind of scrapped that idea, and then the idea of sunglasses kicked in. And when I kicked off the idea, there was a competition with the Huffington Post and Hewlett Packard, and it was called Do Amazing. And so basically, I pitched this idea of, hey, I want to make wooden sunglasses, and these sunglasses are going to be eco-friendly and very unique and very cool and desirable from that standpoint. But I also want to give back. And so there's a Harvard business case on an eye clinic in India. And basically this doctor was forced into retirement. In India, they have a certain age where you have to retire. And he kind of felt like, hey, I'm not done. I've got more to give. And so he started these eye clinics, and they have a sliding scale to pay for them. I thought, this is awesome. I'm going to connect with this clinic, I'm going to sell glasses. And then, with some of the proceeds, we're going to go fund this clinic and help support, their mission in India. And so that's kind of how it started. So I submitted to this contest through the Huffington Post and ended up winning, the competition. So when we won, it was Tanner and Taylor both in college. And so I told them, like, hey, I won, and, we got to get these classes started. And, hey, do you guys want to be part of the company? And they said, well, what are you going to pay us? Like, how does this work? I said, can't pay you, but I just won a $10,000 worth of computer equipment from Hewlett Packard. So everyone got laptops, everyone got, a desktop for their house and some, equipment, some peripherals and all that. And then we had all this extra equipment. And so we needed to raise some money. And so we decided, hey, let's put this all on eBay. So we listed all the computer equipment that we got from Hewlett Packard on eBay, sold it, raised the money, and that was kind of our initial money that we put into Proof to get things kicked off and started. So when people say, like, how did you get funding? I always tell them we got angel investing from Hewlett Packard and eBay, and they kind of laugh about that in the Huffington Post. And so that was kind of our first step into how it got started. And then we just started developing the brand. We went to our first trade show, and a friend in the fashion industry said, hey, you got to go to a trade show. That's a must. This is the one you need to go to. And we had no clue about what we should do. We showed up, we didn't even have a PO book to write, purchase orders. And we got down there, and there was a guy across the hall. He was kind of like, hey, you might not sell a whole lot. Don't be discouraged. You got to come to the show 3 or 4 times before people know who you are. And our booth we did for the 9s because we'd never been there. Most people just had kind of a rack with, here's all the shirts I'm selling. We brought logs in. We had sawdust on the floor from the mill. We put sawdust all on the floor. And it got to the point where people were coming to the show, and our booth was filling up with buyers from, all over the world. And, people were saying, hey, where's the booth at? And it's like, oh, they have sawdust in there. Follow the sawdust trail. The sawdust was getting tracked around the trade show floor. And so that was kind of our first foray. And that's kind of when we sold something online, and, we're starting to sell to friends and family. But that was our first, like, hey, maybe there's something to this. And that's kind of where it took off.
That's cool. That's a great story. And so what is you have a website. I've been on it. I don't remember exactly what the URL is, but what is it? Say the website address.
So the website's iwantproof.com.
iwantproof.com, because when I went there, these glasses are pretty cool looking. And the models, I guess, that you have, everyone looks cool on your website, okay?
We tried.
Do any of you wear glasses?
As far as optical glasses, I don't. None of us do. I think I have a pair. I don't necessarily have a script that necessarily needs it. I have a slight stigmatism that the doctor's like, hey, you could get glasses if you want. And I was like, hey, I own an eyewear company. Maybe I should get a pair. But so I have a pair that I hardly ever wear that I don't necessarily need. So Taylor he had LASIK, and I don't think you had LASIK too, right?
I had LASIK, early on, but sunglasses I wear every single day. Like, it was just, and that was one of the things, when we started the company. It was like, what do I like? And it was kind of like, what do I gravitate to? I was always into kind of accessories. I always had a watch, and I always had 2 or 3 pairs of sunglasses. And so when I started, Proof, it was like, I like sunglasses and I wear them every day, so I'm gonna work on something that I would actually use regularly. So
we do have blue light. So if you're staring at a computer screen, you can wear your blue light glasses to not get the headaches.
I need those. I need sunglasses. And you think you could do something with this face? You could make me look better?
Yeah, you could go right on the front page of the website there, Mark.
Taylor's going, yeah. All right. So share this with us then. I mean, you must have worked through some conflict, either at Wood Grain and or at Proof Eyewear. And you obviously keep going, you're succeeding, but that doesn't mean that you didn't ever have any conflict or any disagreement or, which happens with every organization that we work with. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you manage through conflict?
I'll share one. I mean, we probably have a couple, but this kind of relates back to Shark Tank. So one of the things, when the opportunity to go on Shark Tank came up, a friend had said, hey, you should check out Shark Tank. And I'd never seen the show. And so that night I went back and watched like 4 or 5 episodes, and then went to the website and applied basically. And it was a Gmail account, I think. It was like Shark Tank at Gmail, abcgmail.com or something like that. So I was like, is this even a real account? Like I didn't think it, I thought it was somewhere they sent fans that maybe wanted to apply. About 2 days later, I got a call back, and it was like, hey, we'd like to have you guys apply and go through the process. And you have to make a video, all that. And at that time, we just done our first trade show. We were about to do an international trade show in Germany. And Tanner was running kind of the operations. Taylor was doing the marketing. And we sat down as a conversation, and it was like, hey, like, I think we should go on Shark Tank. And it took a ton of time. There's a ton of legalese and huge stack of paperwork. We had to create this video. And Tanner was like, no, we can't do it right now. Like we don't have the bandwidth, we don't have the resources. I think we had 1 employee at the time, and us 3 basically, maybe 2 employees. And so we kind of had to talk through that. What's the benefit of it? Why should we do it, and why should we put the time in? And Tanner wasn't wrong. We were going to our first international trade show. We wanted to be successful, and that took a ton of time and energy to get the booth and figure out the logistics of all that. And we didn't have really the bandwidth to do it all, but we said, hey, we got to do that. So one of the things I think that's balanced us out with conflict is that we know each other's strengths and weaknesses as brothers, and as if we were partners or friends, there'd probably be a lot of instances where we would probably take our ball and go home and just say, fine, you do your thing, I'm gonna do mine, and we probably wouldn't have got as far as we've gotten. But as brothers, it's funny because some people say, I can work with my family. I couldn't work with my friends because I think I, probably hurt a lot of friendships. Where my brothers, you know exactly what you can push to without going over the edge, to motivate them, or to say, get your point across without, offending where they'd say, hey, I'm gonna, I don't want to work with you anymore. And so, that was one of the conflicts early on. It ended up being, really helpful to our business, and from a marketing standpoint, it ended up being a huge deal. But not all of us were on board to do it originally. And it was kind of like, okay, Tanner was overwhelmed with everything that was going on, and rightfully so. And I said, I'll do all the paperwork and do all the processing, push that through, and we'll each take our part and own it more. Like I said, I probably wasn't pulling the weight that I should have been at the time. So okay, let me just take all this. You focus on the trade show, and we'll get this thing pushed through. And so that's kind of how the Shark Tank thing started rolling. But it almost didn't happen because we weren't all on the same page to get it done.
I think to Brooks' point too, we have the mindset is, hey, we're gonna have to see each other at Thanksgiving dinner. Our mom's gonna bring us together, so we have to resolve this issue. It can't be, hey, I'm gonna hold strong and my opinion matters, and I'm not gonna change my mind. We all have the mindset of, I'm willing to listen. If you can change my mind or convince me, let's talk this out and figure out how we can find a solution for the conflict or the issue at hand.
Yeah, best idea always wins. Is kind of how we look at it. Everybody's got different ideas, and the idea can come from anywhere. But at the end of the day, we gotta take the best idea of the information that we have and move forward. So we usually don't dwell on things for too long, or have too many conflicts where we can't get through.
Probably good philosophy. Yeah. So I can't remember if you said, did you get a deal on Shark Tank or not?
So it was we had an opportunity to take a deal. So if you watch the show a lot, we had offers from Kevin O'Leary, who if you watch it, he always wants to have some sort of perpetuity tied to the deal, and also Robert Herkovich. And when we went in there, we thought, for our product, it would probably would have been what's his name?
Mark Cuban and David John.
Yeah, Mark Cuban or David John probably would have been the very best, because Mark Cuban, he has kind of an online focus, and we have obviously part of our business is online. And then Damon John, he made his fortune in the fashion industry, so we thought that could be a really good contact. And neither of those guys were interested.
They're the first 2 out, actually.
So like I said, Kevin and Robert, they both gave us offers. We kind of came together and huddled up real quick, and didn't really make a whole lot of sense as far as where we knew our sales were for that year, and other opportunities that were coming down the pipe at that moment. And so we went back on, and
we actually called our dad.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Started back in family business. We called our dad and we were planning to say, hey, what do you think? Here's the deal. So he gave us a little bit of advice, and then we went back in.
Yeah, we went back in, and this is, we're spoiling the show here, but we went back in, declined the offers, and walked away. And it was interesting because, that later that night, it was in California. I think we're in the In-N-Out drive-through and asking each other, are we happy with the decision? I think all of us were pretty okay with that decision we made. And at the end of the day, I mean, what was the viewership at that time? Like 12 million views for that show at that time. I mean, it's been a handful of years now. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was huge for our business. So it was a 15-minute commercial during a really popular TV show at the time. And so the day that it aired, our website actually crashed. And so we were super disappointed because we thought, oh man, we're going to get all the eyes on our website and have this opportunity to do really well just over one day or even a couple hours, and our website crashed. But one thing that actually came out of that was kind of interesting was we had a ton of eye doctors reaching out asking if we were going to go to a specific trade show that was it was specific to eye doctors and prescription glasses, and it kind of hadn't even been on our radar. And so that day or the next weekend, and that was a weekend, so the next Monday we called the trade show and got one of the very last booths, and Tanner and I flew out to New York and ended up being one of our most successful trade shows, being at that eyewear trade show. So
That's a great story. It's just, isn't it ironic that your website crashes on the day when it could have been the biggest day? But
yeah,
you still continue.
We put all the effort into it. So we ended up even calling a couple individuals who've been on the show and asked for advice and insights on what we need to prepare for. So we felt super prepared. All our T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. And so we sat back and had a viewing party with all our friends and family. And so our web developer and graphic designer at the time let us know, hey guys, the site's down the middle of the show. So it was like a little bittersweet at the same time. We did all our effort and did things we knew would kind of prepare us, but a little frustrating.
Sounds like you guys have done all right, though. That's great. So
It worked out, man.
how do you manage your time between wood grain, because you're all three of you are in really important management positions, and Proof Eyewear? How do you do that?
Honestly, it goes back to our staff. So we have a pretty small, tight-knit team in our Proof office. We have a retail store downtown Boise, but our key positions within our marketing, our customer service, shipping, and our sales, those three individuals really run the day-to-day on executing the plan. So really being vocal and communicating the message and the vision with Proof, and then having a clear path for those guys to execute. So that's been key for us. We have a lot of those guys have been with the company 7+ years. So it's nice having individuals you can count on that are reliable and just good at what they do. So that's really the balance there. So what do you guys, beyond that, any other insights?
Yeah, I mean, we spend time together. Obviously, we spend a lot of time together as family and brothers, and a lot of our meetings we joke are like on the ski lift, So we say, hey, what do we need to do on this, this trade show? Or what do we need to do for new product development? Or how do we expand? And so a lot of our discussions happen just kind of at the family dinner table or when we're getting together as family. And so we have a lot of kind of impromptu meetings, and then we all sit on the Proof board and discuss what's going on with the team. And then, separately, a lot of conversations happen, again, just when we're together, impromptu meetings, and then we kind of say, okay, this is what we need to take back to the team. Regular meetings with the team as far as how do we develop new product, what do we do on designs, how are we doing with, our supply chain and those types of things. And so, to Tanner's point, a lot of credit to our team. Honestly, they carry the water. But it allows us to kind of be involved kind of at a higher level and kind of make some more strategic decisions to keep things moving that way.
Well, that right there is $1 million piece of wisdom, in that we work a lot with management teams, and they struggle to stop working in the business and start working on the business, Which it sounds like what you described, you too, Brooks, is exactly what you're doing. You've got it set up, which is not easy, to where your teams can run the business day to day, and you can work on the business without being, entrenched in the business every day. That's awesome.
That's a really good comment, Mark. I mean, Tanner was kind of the last person to be at Proof full time, and him and I were talking a few months ago, and I think Brooks and I sometimes we'd have different perspectives than Tanner on certain things, because to your point, he's in the business every day. And like I said, a few months ago, we were talking and said, hey, now that you're stepped away from the business every day, have your opinions changed? And he said, yeah, it's now that I've been able to step away from it, look at it from 1,000 feet up instead of 2 inches up, and he has a different perspective on it. I think it goes for all of us. So.
That's great. So we don't have a lot of time left, but I wanted you to be able to talk a little bit about, and I can't remember, frankly, if this is with Proof Eyewear or with Wood Grain, or maybe both, but how you give back. It's Proof, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Talk to us about that, and why did you decide to do that? I mean, I assume it's not just a marketing ploy, right? It goes much deeper than that, but you
Bruce kind of hit on it in the beginning. That was really one of our core values as a company. When we started the company, it was, hey, we want to obviously be profitable. We want to be able to have job growth and be able to offer jobs and employees into ourselves. But really, all of us have lived out of the country. We served LDS missions in third world countries and saw the things that we were afforded with. And so when we created Proof, day one, it was, hey, what can we do beyond creating cool sunglasses? How can we give it back? How can we give a portion of our proceeds back? And what's it going to look like? How's it going to be structured? So there's a lot of logistical pieces that we had pretty well tied in the beginning, but over time it has evolved and slightly pivoted and gotten more focused, I'd say, and more impactful. But really, we focus on a few specific things, and that is health and vision. So obviously, being an eyewear company, that's right in line. Education, we're big proponents of education, knowing that education can change the path of a lot of people's futures. Community empowerment, so that's pretty vague in the fact that it can go a lot of different directions. And then beyond that, we focus on getting involved, not just saying, hey, here's a cash lump sum, hopefully it goes to a good cause. Every year we focus on a specific region that we've identified that has those specific needs. We partner with a nonprofit. It's changed over the years. It can vary depending on where we feel like we can make the most impact, but lately it's been Help International. And so we partner with them, and they do all the logistics to figure out what communities would be the best fit for these specific needs. They figure out all the logistics on if we were to go visit and where the money would go, the funding would go, where the service opportunities are. So we typically pull together our team, invite anybody else who wants to kind of contribute and be involved, and we give back 10% of our profits to that specific project. And so it goes not only to the donation, but we actually physically go there and take about 10 days to 2 weeks, and actually are in the communities, get to see the impact that funding has. So it's pretty meaningful. We've had employees come out to us and say, hey, this is the main reason I work for Proof. Obviously it's fun, it's a fun culture, good industry, but the fact that I'm able to come and see exactly what my hard work's doing on a day-to-day basis, it's pretty impactful. So it's twofold. Obviously we're impacting these communities, but it's a huge boost and really a morale piece for us to say, hey, this is from a small idea that started in a garage, it's able to impact this specific community in Uganda or El Salvador or wherever it may be that specific year.
That's amazing. And did I hear that 10% of the profit goes to that effort?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, cool. So there's a couple of things. We have a little bit of business we need to conduct here at the end here. So
right.
I am personally going to commit to buy some of those glasses that Taylor has on. What do you call those lenses?
These ones are called the Vista.
They got blue blocker technology in it. So if you're in front of a TV screen or computer screen or on your phone, it blocks out the harsh blue lights that wear your eyes out. So all our optical lenses now, all our optical frames now come with that lens in it.
That's great. That's cool. And a pair of sunnies, because my family's educated me that being out in the sunshine, you can do damage to your eyes if you don't have sunglasses on.
That's true. Yeah.
We need to select the winner of the glasses. So I've got a piece of paper here. We drew this out, but the name that we have is Carrie Pike. Carrie Pike is the winner of the glasses. So Carrie, you are on here. I can see your name still on here. And we will make contact with her to make arrangements with you guys on how she gets those glasses. Okay. So that's really cool that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, enjoy those. We'll get you taken care of.
Yeah, that's great. A couple last things. One is I wanted you to tell us the one word that you would use to describe the leadership style of each other. So Taylor, let's start with you. What word would you use to describe Brooks's leadership style?
For Brooks, I would say it kind of goes back to that the story of Shark Tank. For Brooks, I would say fearless, because I think a little bit of Tanner and I's hesitation was obviously, to Brooks's point, we were super busy at the time, but probably in the back of our minds a little bit afraid of that situation, because if you watch the show, the judges they kind of tear people apart pretty well. So
Yeah.
our whole goal with going on was obviously getting that exposure, but not making idiots of ourselves, and I think we accomplished that to a certain extent. So for Brooks, I would say fearless. And then for Tanner, I would definitely say creative. I mean, and it's contagious, because Tanner always has some really creative ideas, and like I said, he's the one that was most recently running day-to-day operations at Proof, and you could talk to anybody at the office, and Tanner's creativity was super contagious, and they just loved working with him, and it was really unique, because it wasn't ever him delegating or him saying, hey, you need to go do this. Everybody just wanted to do their best for the company because they believed in it, but also appreciated Tanner as a leader that way. So
That's cool. Is innovation still important for wood grain?
yeah, and to be honest, I mean, that's definitely part of what Tanner does on a daily basis. It's a marketing role, but there's new products that are coming out, and a lot of the team has realized that Tanner is really good at that product development with his experience with Proof and other things, and so they come to him and ask, hey, what do you think on this, or can you help us work up a prototype on different things? So absolutely.
That's
I
awesome.
would say wood grain's pretty innovative in the fact that this industry is pretty old school. Doors
Yeah.
are been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years, obviously. So thinking of ways to be a more effective manufacturer, thinking of different components can be used to save costs. Wood grain, I'd say, is honestly within the industry is at the forefront of innovation when it comes to our industry, which is really old school and not very exciting. But there's a lot of little components you just don't think about on the day-to-day that our team and management and employees are really keen on.
Especially about through the construction of products or the supply chain, there's things that you can take an old school product, but you can be innovative with them. And so I think the Woodgrain is pretty innovative on that.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, Brooks, you're up. Taylor.
So for Taylor, I'd say Taylor's a doer. You know, Taylor's the type of guy. I'm more like, well, let's get a lay of the land. Let me understand it and take an assessment a little bit. And Taylor's just like jump in, like, okay, we got to hammer something on the wall. Let's hammer on the wall and keep things moving. So Taylor's definitely jump in and get it done. That he's innovative, and the other thing is Tanner's just he's got a motor that he just doesn't quit on things. Like so, he'll be the guy that's up late finishing something up for the trade show, or just getting that last little bit. That last Tanner just does the extra mile when everybody else is like, ooh, oh, pizza's here. I'm tired. I'm gonna have some pizza. Tanner's still painting the wall or getting the trade show booth ready. And so I mean Tanner's just energy is probably the word, or Energizer Bunny, because I mean he doesn't quit.
Okay, good. And Tanner.
Yeah, so I'd kind of echo what Brooks says in some form of light for Taylor. I'd say he's driven. He has an idea. If it's something that wants to get done or needs to get done, he jumps head first and is the first to go after the task and accomplish the task. So that's definitely what I see Taylor on. You can rely on him to get the specific task at hand done. I would
execution. That's what I was looking for.
It's a good one.
Execution. Okay.
Yeah. And then I would say Brooks is really good about looking at all angles, looking at different opportunities, different perspectives. As a leader, that's really important. The fact that if someone comes to you with an idea, he might add on to your idea or validate the idea. So he's really good about not just having an opinion or saying, hey, it's got to be this way. He kind of is super creative in the fact that he comes to the table and thinks of all angles and adds to your idea or gives you the confidence to kind of run with your idea. So very good in the fact that it just kind of spirals from there, and you end up with this better product that you started with. So it's a nice characteristic and trait to have.
That's great. That's good. It's good to hear you guys describe each other, your style. Your two other brothers, are they part of Wood Grain?
No, one is and one isn't. So one at one time worked in the business and got off to start his own real estate business, entrepreneurial, and has software tied into it. And then the other one runs our distribution division.
And he's based in Atlanta, so he's the odd duck out.
He's down there. Okay. And do you ever go to your mother for advice? You mentioned your father.
Yeah, definitely. So we always joke that, you know, we kind of got our entrepreneurial and our business sense from our dad and our fashion sense from our mom. She's, you know, she graduated with fashion merchandising and interior decorating degrees.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
when it comes to style and just, you know, how to set stuff, and I think, you know, we build trade show booths and we do a lot of design. I mean, that didn't come from my dad at all. So that's definitely our mom, where, you know, we inherited that gene where, you know, we have a little sense of fashion. And I think that ties into the glasses where, you know, my dad's, you know, he's a dad, you know, it's just, hey, they work and it's functional. And my mom's more fashionable. And so I think that's one of the reasons our designs are the way they are, because we all kind of grew up with that trade and grew up in a household where our mom, she dressed us. She dressed us, yeah. She dressed
you. Good luck. Your good looks and your fashion sense. That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you very much. It's been great having you on here. We appreciate what you shared with us. We look forward to seeing your ongoing success. We might have to do this again. You could bring in your 2 other brothers and your mom and your dad, make it a family deal. Great. It's great being with you today, Taylor, Brooks, and Tanner. Thanks for this. You can find the recording of this on our website at learningpointonline.com. And we'll have to do this again soon, okay? And we'll be in touch. Take care. Thanks again.
You too.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.